Hi, it's Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book to read for you. Today's book is James' New Coat from 2008. So let's get started. All Sir Topham Hatter engine like to look clean, bright and shiny. They love being washed down and having their brass polished until it gleams. James was in the workshop being repainted. He was beside himself with joy. James thought being repainted meant he was special. The workmen painted and polished for hours upon hours. Then with new paint, shining brass tinkled, and black, James returned to Tidemouth Shed. "Look, aren't I a beautiful red?" he asked the other. No wonder Sir Topham Hatter think I'm special. But Percy was worried. He wasn't being repainted, and he wasn't red. "Does this mean Sir Topham Hatter doesn't think I'm special?" he asked. "Looking suspended is not the same as being really useful," said Thomas firmly. "But best of all is being really useful in looking suspended, like me," said James cheerfully. Before Thomas could say anything, James closed his eyes and felt happy and asleep. The next morning, all the engine was very busy. Percy was working at the coal plant. Thomas and Emily was taking passengers up and down the branch line. Gordon was pouring the express. Sir Topham Hatter came to see James. He told him to join Percy at the coal plant at once. The coal car must reach Burndam Dock before the boat sailed, so no dilly-dally, he said. "Yes, sir," said James, and he set off at once. But James didn't go straight to the coal plant. He decided to go by the canal instead. Then he could see himself in the water for yard after yard after yard. "Magnificent," he puffed. James had forgotten what Sir Topham Hatter had said. At the coal yard, Percy was working as hard as he could, but he was falling behind. The line of freight cars was getting longer and longer, and the yard manager was getting cross and cross. Where could James be? James was still enjoying himself, but there was no one around to share his fun, so he headed for Wilworth Station. But as James pulled into Wilworth Station, Gordon the express was pulling out the passenger had gone. "Bother," said James. He was disappointed, and he left the station. James headed straight for the branch line. James saw Thomas. "Look at me," he puffed. "Don't I look fine?" "You should be at work," called Thomas. But James didn't listen to Thomas. James was enjoying being James. But Percy wasn't enjoying being Percy. He was trying his hardest, but the troublesome Chucks was being very naughty. Poor Percy was almost worn out. "What will happen to the order now?" cried the yard manager. Afternoon, Percy was cross. So was the yard manager. To make up for lost time, he said, "You must take an extra long line of coal cars to the docks." Jane was delighted. The docks was already buzzing with engines and people. "It's the place to be seen," he said. "The troublesome Chucks are being very naughty," warned Percy, but James still wasn't listening. James puffed along, looking forward to being seen, but the troublesome Chucks were naughtier than ever. They rocked and rolled and crashed and bashed. James' face was soon covered in soot. Going downhill, the troublesome Chucks wiggled and giggled. James had to pull his brakes on with a jolt. But the coal tumbled out of the troublesome Chucks, landed on James. James was cross, and the troublesome Chucks, as hard as he could, more coal flew out. Now James didn't want to be seen. He was dirty as he ever been before. But on his way to the dock, he kept passing his friends. He passed Emily and Edward and Thomas. Thomas thought the only red thing left on James was his face. James into Berlin dock. He hoped no one would see him, but Gordon was at the dock with the express. He could not believe his eyes. He thought James was Grubble's grim as sturdiest, dustiest, dirtiest engine he had ever seen. Percy arrived safely with the last of the coal cars. "I like your new coat of paint," he puffed cheekily. "You do look suspended." James knew he should have listened. He didn't feel suspended anymore, but for the first time all day, James could hear clearly. He could hear the sound of the troublesome Chuck giggling at him, and despite feeling foolishness, even James had to smile. So that was James' new coat from 2008. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Have a groovy day with another video coming out real soon.